So I have a lot of stories about getting caught doing different things. I mean, I'm a terrible person. That makes sense. But I'm going to tell a story, actually, and I think I'm the only one that's going to do this so far, about not getting caught, but catching somebody doing something. Because you see, I mean, and this might explain, I mean, I am a terrible person. This probably explains this. Say I'm an authority figure. I teach intro to college writing at Eastern University. So one of the things that I teach there is about, I teach about plagiarism, about academic honesty, right? So every semester I catch at least one student plagiarizing. And despite the fact that I go over we spend all this time in class talking about plagiarism and, it's on the syllabus and everything, it doesn't matter. Every semester, at least one student plagiarizes. And, the consequences of plagiarism, like in my class at least, the policy is if you plagiarize the first time, you fail that assignment. If you plagiarize the second time, you get an automatic F for the course. And it's a serious offense. Universities take it very seriously. You could end up, I don't know I don't know anybody that this has happened to, but if you plagiarize several times, you can get expelled, right? So it's very serious. One of the things, maybe not plagiarism, you might not call it plagiarism exactly, but it's academic dishonesty, is if you turn in the same paper that you wrote for another class, and you turn it in again for some of you have probably done this, right? If you recycle a paper, you write a paper in your sociology class and you turn it in your English class. I don't know if you know that's academic dishonesty, right? So that counts as plagiarism. You're basically plagiarizing yourself. So I always tell, when I go over this in class, I tell the story of this one kid who did this one time. So he turned in his paper. It was the last paper of the semester, their big paper that's worth the research paper. It's worth the most out of any of the papers that we did in the class. And he turns his paper in. As soon as he gives it to me, I just happened to look at it, and I saw, in MLA format, you have to follow a certain format. He put a different professor's name on the paper. So I said, hey, this is in my, you wrote the wrong name. He's like, oh, and it had a different course number on it too. And he's like, oh God, I'm so silly. I was thinking of that, of this other class, this thing I had to write for that class, and I must have just wrote that accidentally. So I thought that was a little suspicious, but I took it, and I'm reading the paper. And if you're going to recycle papers, don't be so careless and lazy about it. So I'm reading this paper, and there's actually references to discussions that they had in that class. And even at one point, he said, in our textbook, justice in society. I'm like, that's not our textbook. So of course, I didn't really need confirmation, but I emailed his other professor, because very conveniently I had his name. So I emailed his other professor and asked, do you have so-and-so in your class? And in the meantime, I wrote him the email and I said, listen, I don't even remember his name, but I got this paper, and you clearly are recycling this or whatever. And at this point, I said, I emailed your professor. And at this point, he says, he confesses. And he says, I'm really sorry, I'm so busy, and I hope you could just forgive me. And I said, well, I'm glad you're sorry, but no, right? And so his response to me was outraged. He's outraged at me, and he wrote me this long email. And basically, in the email, he says, we're friends, and I betrayed him. He's like, never talk to me again. I never want to speak to you again. Right? I'm very upset about that. So I said, yeah, sure. And so he wrote me that email. So a lot of you, I teach, the class that I teach is a required course. You have to take it, right? It's like a base course, a gen ed requirement. So if you fail it, you have to take it again. So the next semester, I'm standing in the front of the class, and here he walks in. And I just saw him as he walked in. He's like, oh, no, not him again. But he squeaked by that semester. We learned to get along. He eventually learned to forgive me. So that's not being caught catching somebody else. That's